Welcome in. Happy to have you here. We are The Meltdown as we are set to have another movie discussion and review here in 2024. We've had plenty of them here on the channel. We appreciate you to subscribe if you want to be a part of those conversations here in the future. We're talking about A Real Pain this time around as mismatched cousins reunite for a tour through Poland to honor their beloved grandmother. The adventure takes a turn when the odd couple's old tensions resurface against the backdrop of their family history. I'm Tim Melton, that's Tyler Johns. Let's get right into our thoughts of A Real Pain because this is a movie going in where I knew the acting performances were going to be one of the real draws of the movie. That's the way it's been promoted, and that's what made me book a ticket, Tyler. What were your expectations sort of going into this one?
So going into this, I expected a great performance from Kieran Culkin. He's great in pretty much everything he acts in. And I was expecting a good performance from Jesse Eisenberg, but I also expected some top tier writing from Eisenberg because I'm just a big fan of his work and the way he writes. And that's exactly what I got. I was very happy with the story I got, all the beats it hit, how it ended, and very happy with the performances from both Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin.
Jesse Eisenberg not only is in this movie as a star, but also, as you mentioned, wrote it and directed it.
Yep.
And so it is a Jesse Eisenberg production. And I'll go ahead and cut right to the chase. All the
Cut
hy-
to it.
all the hype I've heard has been around Kieran Culkin's performance in this. And I'm not just trying to play devil's advocate. I actually think Jesse Eisenberg is the person that delivers the best performance in this movie. I was blown away by his performance, having to play the straight man, having to
Yes.
play the more reserved, having to
Mhm.
play the one that was emotionally having to constantly play ping pong with the cool guy in the room. I found his performance to be spot on and perfect. Kieran Culkin is fantastic in this movie, no
Yes.
doubt about it. He's going to be the heavy award buzz candidate in the supporting actor role. But I really do think Eisenberg deserves potentially a nomination because it is some of the best acting I've seen on screen all year long.
I agree. I agree. I went in expecting, like you said, Kieran Culkin to be the real heavy hitter, and he was. He was. He's a scene stealer in that film. But Eisenberg as the the cousin who is the more responsible one, the one emotionally shouldering all of the trauma and just issues with Kieran Culkin's character, I felt to be just such a strong performance.
I love great monologues in film, and I feel like the one he delivers at the dinner table
Yes.
talking to the rest of the tour group about how tough it is to be him and no one even notices.
Mhm.
Man, it was brilliant. I thought it was well written, well performed, and this movie I gave it a 4 out of 5. Normally, we save our rankings here for the
Okay.
end, but I need to talk about it because I'm a little conflicted because I'm much closer to a 4.5 than I am a 3.5.
I am as well.
But there's something keeping me from going any further than a 4 out of 5. And what I think it is I think there are so many scenes in this movie where you're leaning into the script,
Mhm.
you're leaning into the performances, and you're leaning into the back and forth of how these two characters have gotten to where they are as family and what they're exploring in their insecurities. And then right before you get to that emotional climax, it cuts away and goes to another scene. And then it builds, 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 and you get to that scene again where there's about to be a tension that bursts, and then it resets and it goes again into another travel down the road. We're going to rebuild, and then it reaches, it just never hits that crescendo that I really want it to hit. And I think there's something actually quite brilliant about how reserved it is,
Yes.
right? It's obviously
Yes.
intentional, but I am so frustrated with not having the resolution I'm hoping to get in a lot of these dialogue scenes,
And that's family.
and that is family.
That is family issues to a T. Whether it's the argument that's building up and somebody's finally about to say what's been on their mind for years, but just haven't really had the heart to tell them, and now they're finally just gonna let them have it and say, you know what, maybe brutal honesty is the right way to go about it. And then we cut away because they're tamping it down because you can't blow up the family. And then also the end where it just ends. Kieran Culkin's waiting at the airport. I thought that was brilliant because you have this whole moment where Jesse Eisenberg is having to, say, "Are you going to be all right? Are you going to be okay? Are you sure you don't want to come over? Are you sure you don't want me to come with you?" And Kieran Culkin's just like, "Nope, I'll be all right." And you just got to trust it, whether you're dealing with somebody with addiction issues or mental health issues. That's just part of it, where you have to trust that they will be all right, even though there's a lot of evidence that says they won't be, because you can't control it. You can't have any effect on it other than just reaching out and saying, "Are you gonna be all right?"
Tyler, that was beautifully said. And this film is not cheap.
No.
It doesn't take cheap substance abuse sort of pathways it could have taken.
Nope.
There's not a scene where Kieran Culkin is sprawled out on the bathroom floor and he's having to be resuscitated, or there's nothing about this that isn't earned.
Mhm.
I just wanted it to go one step further every single time. And you're right in that that is family, and these two characters have to continue to coexist,
Mhm.
and they know they can't put all their cards on the table. They always have to pull their punches, even when they want to throw the most vicious haymaker they possibly can verbally. But even the scene where they've got the rocks and they're putting them on their grandmother's porch there in
Yeah.
Poland, even that leads to almost nothing emotionally resounding. Like, they're told by the neighbors, like, "That's not cool, you don't need to do that." They're like, "All right." I don't buy I don't buy one I don't buy one iota of Kieran Culkin going, "You know what? Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm just gonna put the rock in here and walk away." I was ready for him to chunk the rock up at the neighbors. I was ready for him to mouth off in some
Yeah.
way. There's no way that character just goes, "Sorry, we'll cooperate." That I didn't buy one bit, which is one of my biggest gripes is that I just feel like every time it really had a chance to push towards some sort of big moment, it just always pulled back and reset, and you went through the same process again. However, it is a much deeper and more beautiful film than what you see on the surface when you start to really get into it. And it's a great conversation starter. And I love the ending
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's
because
fantastic.
Kieran Culkin has played cool guy the entire movie. He walks into a room full of
Mhm.
strangers. He's endearing. They all love him. He constantly plays morality police
Yep.
of like causing situations and then going like, "How dare you notice the situation I called? You're not allowed to comment on it." And Eisenberg looks around the entire time like, "Am I the abnormal one here, or am I the one that isn't the one that's sane and making sense?"
Speaking of Eisenberg, again, just another credit to his writing because as much as he often plays the socially awkward, socially inept guy, to write this script, you got to have a good understanding of social situations, how to make them awkward, make them funny, then calm them back down, heat it back up again. You got to hand it to him.
Both of these characters are aware of their shortcomings and are aware of their weaknesses.
Mhm.
And that's what makes it so brilliant. They're both fully aware of where they don't measure up. With Eisenberg, it's socially.
Yep.
With Tolkien, it's more professionally
Mhm.
and familial security. Those two things evade him.
Interpersonal relationships.
Interpersonal relationships for sure. And the ending is a beautiful, brilliant thing because the entire movie, Kieran Culkin has been the strong one, minus, moments of having emotional outbursts. But he's been the one in the social settings that's been leading the charge and been the
Right.
comfortable one. And Eisenberg's been the uncomfortable one. And then it cuts to a shot of Eisenberg going home where he's at his most comfortable because in that setting, he has control. In that setting, he has love that's reciprocated in a way that's healthy. In that setting, his world it has shrunk to where the strangers are on the outside looking in and he's actually in control of his life. And
Mhm.
you get that from just a brief moment of him getting home and being surrounded by his family with love and adulation, which once again, don't forget Eisenberg, what he wanted more than anything was to be able to walk in a room full of strangers and have love and adulation. And he can't figure out how to crack that code. He goes home to family, he immediately has that. Kieran Culkin, who's been strong throughout the whole movie, at the end is looking around the airport, realizing that he's in a room full of strangers, and it now is a situation where he can't perform for anybody else because he doesn't literally know anybody. So he
Yep.
can't show strength. because who would he be showing strength to? No one. So he just sits there and realizes, like, I'm not whole. I'm missing something in my life. And you get that not from words on the page, you get it strictly from nonverbal acting performances that are extremely strong. I may have to bump this up to a 4.5 the more I talk about it.
I mean, after this conversation, I might have to do the same, Tim.
It's not a cheap movie. It could have been. It
Oh, yes.
could have been a cheap, we're trying to, play the hits of some sort of riddled addict, and Eisenberg is trying to clean him up. It could have also gone the other route where it was like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which is a
Yes.
movie that I absolutely love. So don't take that as a criticism, any Planes, Trains, and Automobiles fans. I'm a big fan of it, but it could have played it to where Steve Martin and John Candy, you had that dynamic between these two. And this is something completely different where both of these characters want the best for one another, but they both have different skill sets and they both have different fears and they both have different things that they bring to the table. And I just think it is a very layered, nuanced movie that doesn't hit you over the head at times where I really wanted to be hit over the head. Not explained of what was going on because I got it, but I wanted there to be a revelation on screen to where it's like, oh, okay, that's a huge moment. The monologue was as close as I felt like I got to that. So, but I'm
I would
tempted to see
agree,
this one
and
again.
I would agree with that. There's not that many, big moments where, things are being said or there's a big moment of realization. But again, that's family.
I know you're exactly
So,
right. It it it
I can't
was
criticize it.
I I'm trying to talk about my love for what it is instead of my desire to fix what it isn't. And that is a lot of how you deal with family.
Mhm.
Of you just have to accept like these are things that are going to be in your life and you have to make the most of it. But overall, I would give A Real Pain a 4, potentially a 4.5 when I let it marinate some more. I'm fresh off of it. Tyler, I believe you're also in the 4 out of 5 category, but
Currently, but after this
yeah,
conversation, I mean, it's just reminding me of everything that was just done so right to craft this movie. So I'm gonna go ahead and just call it early. This is NBC Decision Desk over here. It's a 4.5 out of 5 movie.
wow. So Tyler's already notched that thing up from his initial review. What do you think of A Real Pain? Have you seen it? Do you plan to see it? I do recommend it. Tyler recommends it. It is a strong movie. It is a top 10 movie for me currently in the year, and I'd love to know what you think of it for sure. Make sure you head to our title sponsor. That's My Bookie. Maybe your bank account is suffering a real pain right now. Rebuild that bankroll at My Bookie, where you can cash out and win or let it ride. At My Bookie, make sure you use promo code next round for a first time deposit bonus. Bet and play absolutely anything, anytime, anywhere, only with My Bookie. What will this movie do around awards season? Will it get a couple of acting nominations? I surely believe it should, but we shall see what is ahead for Eisenberg and for Culkin in A Real Pain. More with you on The Meltdown, live daily, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern.